Hello and welcome to the show. Most people don't know what to do or expect when faced with a legal dispute, be that in labor law, matrimonial law, debt counseling, or property law, or more. We aim to give our viewers a broader understanding of the law in South Africa to ensure that the vulnerable are not taken advantage of. In this show, we address specific questions aimed to you, and you send us that questions so that we can ensure that your answers are addressed. And you can do that via our platform, that is our email platform and our WhatsApp platform, the information that will be provided to you after the show and on the screens as well. So don't forget to send us your questions. I'm your host, Fazlaw Abrams, and you're watching the Fazlaw Show. When it comes to ward councillors, they are a very important cog in the local government system. They are accountable to their ward and the municipal council. So councillors are meant to live in the area where they serve and in order to ensure a genuine understanding of the plight of the constituents. The episode speaks to the role of the local councillor and how the councillor should assist the community in identifying the needs and the priority areas for the development of the communities, and also what the municipalities need in order to plan the processes. The guest expert in this episode today is Yusuf Kandalwai. He is a pupil advocate who has recently passed his advocate exam and is currently attending his honors in Islamic Sharia. In the past, with the past local elections, he has stood as a candidate local councillor for Ward 63 under the political party of Al-Jamaa. Yusuf, welcome to the show, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Fazluddin, and to you and your viewers as well.
So today, what I'd like to deal with is ultimately the role of the councillor. And you've gone through that process to prepare yourself. Had you been successful in your candidateship? However, you've also now passed your exams as an advocate, and you'll be admitted as an advocate soon.
Indeed.
But before that, you've been practicing as a candidate attorney, and you've done your candidateship. So you're well experienced in law, and I see you as a perfect candidate to answer the questions to our viewers. Now, the representation role of a councillor is what we want to deal in this segment, and I'm just going to jump down into it. So when and how are councillors elected? Just to give our viewers a brief understanding of that.
Just an overview, we all know that every 5 years we have the local government elections, okay? And there are usually two ballot sheets, okay? One is for the ward councillor that you are voting for, and you want to be elected. And then the second one is a municipality. So we're focusing on the ward councillor. So the ward, the constituency, the electorate, the residents vote for a specific person that they would want to be as representing them as a ward councillor. That is the one way of a ward councillor being elected. The other way is by a by-election. For example, if a ward councillor resigns or is dismissed or passes away for that matter, then a by-election has to take place.
Okay.
This is important because, remember, it's the residents that votes a specific individual to represent them, right? So it's not a party thing, it's not a municipality thing. The community chooses their representative.
Thank you.
Therefore, there's a by-election.
All right, so a statement to make decisions on behalf of the constituents. Can you unpack that statement for our viewers, please?
Look,
What does that mean?
That principle is based on representative democracy. Like I've mentioned, the constituency would then elect and vote for a specific person. They'll have a fair opportunity to hear the voices of the various candidates that had stood for that particular election, and they've heard their expertise. So based on that, they would then make a decision as to who the candidate should be in that particular ward, and the ward itself makes that decision, and that is basically what that statement refers to.
Thank you. Councillors must be transparent and carry out their duties in an accountable way. What does that really mean to the community out there?
Basically, they need to carry out the duties in such a way that they are transparent in the sense that every movement, every action, any decision that the ward councillor makes, the community needs to know. Residents of that ward needs to know.
So there's no cloak and dagger
There's
type
no
of decisions that is made.
Definitely not. So that interaction is extremely vital and important for a ward councillor.
When it comes to adequately representing the interests of the public or the party, which takes precedence? Because the party might have a particular way of delivering service and serving the constituents, and the public might have a certain understanding of what their needs and processes are or what's important for them. When it comes to a conflict between the two, which takes preference?
In this regard, the public or the residents or the constituency would take preference because that constituency put you there, placed you there, voted for you, and made sure that you are elected as a ward councillor. So you are firstly answerable to your ward. Like you rightfully said, the party may have a different approach. However, each ward is unique with the issues, the difficulties, the challenges, and that councillor, ward councillor, needs to take that up accordingly.
Now, how would a public member then object to when they think the interests of their interests is not adequately being represented by the councillor?
Yes, now that is a very, very important question because a lot of our community members and residents would sit at home and for instance, complain about a certain issue or have an objection, but the objection is not being heard, unfortunately.
So I need to know what process would a public member take to object?
So when that resident has an objection, the resident needs to approach the ward councillor and object to certain things, attend meetings, attend briefings, attend structures where community public meetings are held, and go forward and raise your objections. You cannot do it from home. You need to come forward. You need to go forward and address those relevant concerns.
Okay, thank you. I have one question before we go for an ad break. How would one know when council meetings takes place and who all can attend these meetings? Just summary.
Yeah.
How would you know? Is there a notice going out?
Usually there's a notice that goes out, and also the speaker would schedule the next meeting once a week or whenever the meeting is allocated. And then the councillors attend those meetings. That's the ward councillors and also the PR councillors, and also the public may attend those meetings as well.
Right. We're going to go for an ad break. Viewers, we'll go for an ad break quickly and we'll definitely come back with more answers to your questions. Keep watching. I'm your host, Fazlaw Abrams, and you're watching The Fazlaw Show. And welcome back to The Fazlaw Show. In the first segment, we had an opportunity to meet our guest legal expert, advocate soon-to-be Yusuf Kandalwai, and we also looked at the representative role of your local councillor. Now, if you just watched and if you've just joined us in the show, please continue and we will definitely answer your questions. I've got an expert here today, and Yusuf, I just want to continue with where we left off, and that was with the meetings, the council meetings. Just a quick one on, are these records and reports of the meetings available for the public, and how can they basically obtain these records and reports?
Yes, definitely, most definitely. Records, the public has access to it. However, it depends what you required for and to what extent. You may approach the records, access to records department at the Civic Centre and request whichever required records you would want to be made available to you, and it will be transmitted to you in that regard.
Okay. So councillors are expected to be in close contact with the constituents on the ground and keep the council informed of the real experiences and the views of the residents within the municipality. That statement, can you unpack that for our
Yes,
viewers,
once
please?
again, participatory democracy, extremely important and essential for a ward councillor. It's important for the ward councillor to be on the ground, basically and literally on the ground with their residents, to hear the concerns, have public meetings, have branch meetings, have ward committees, so that information can be transmitted from the ward councillor to its residents and from the residents to the ward councillor, because the residents influences the decisions that the ward councillor would make in council. So that is meant by on the ground, that there has to be transparency, communication, and a strong link between the two.
Now, I think that covers the definition of participatory democracy as well. But if there's anything that you'd like to add on to that definition, you can do so. But also by doing that, I would maybe just go on with a second question and say, how can the constituents be more involved? Because I see that there's a lot of people out there who wants to get involved, but they're either working. Do they have access to the councillor after hours or on weekends? And what would your suggestion be?
Look, most meetings are held in the evenings, in all likelihood. So residents needs to make the effort to go forward and to interact with their ward councillor, to give their concerns, to raise their concerns, to object to certain things. Like I said early on in the show, that you cannot do it from home. You have to go out there. You have to participate. That word participatory democracy, it means you need to participate. So I encourage everyone. There's a system in place. So please go forward. If there are public meetings, if there are ward committee meetings, if there are branch meetings, participate in it. Go there. If you're unable to speak, for example, and you feel that your voice is not heard or you're a bit shy, write it down, email the ward councillor, give him a call. I mean, those are the type of things that you need to do to engage with him and make the effort to move forward. The ward councillor won't know until you have obviously made that initial contact with him.
And something has just come to mind where people can be more involved, and I think what we have is, in the communities, you have institutions or associations called ratepayers associations.
That's correct.
And that's most probably where the citizens, constituents can come together, have the meetings, and they can then have a joint decision of what should be taken to the councillor at their meetings, and that is where they could send a representative for those who cannot attend those meetings.
That's correct. That's one of the methods. Other ward committees are there, usually public meetings. This is how it should be. And I won't say, I cannot say and attest to each ward that each ward councillor is implementing these systems and structures. But as residents, if your ward councillor is not, you need to demand it.
Sure.
You need to ask your ward councillor, you need to hear us, right? Because you are our voice. So please engage with us, have these meetings, have these public meetings, even if it's in a park. I mean, there's no expense involved. Just have these things on a Saturday afternoon where, you know, we can get together. For example, if there's a rise in crime, petty crime in our streets, we need to increase security, more visible policing. These are the things a ward councillor needs to attend to, but a ward councillor needs to hear you and go forward and ask for these type of meetings to be held as well.
And then another question that I need to ask you is, do citizens have a voting council? And if not, who votes on their behalf?
Citizens does not have a voting council. That is why they elected the ward councillor. So the ward councillor votes on your behalf on a certain issue or reason why they are voting.
Okay. And then how best can citizens influence their local councillor to represent their views on a particular topic that affects them?
Yes, once again, that participation becomes essential in that regard. They need to engage with the ward councillor. They need to speak about, for example, if you two streets members are getting together, call your ward councillor in for a meeting, engage with him, discuss what the concerns are, whether it's road lights, street lights, or issues regarding service delivery. Take it to the ward councillor so that the ward councillor can then take that forward to council, to make amends and to remedy.
So I would say then the constituents, the members of the public should really lobby themselves, get in one of them who can really, or a few of them who can put forward something and debate on a topic. Because if I would say that the councillor, if they do have a different point of view on a topic, the public who lives in the area, they should then convince and influence that councillor and say, we see your view, but this is our view. And in order to convince and turn that councillor's view in more in line with what the public is saying and want, you need to be able to have that skill.
100%. 100%. That interaction, it's important to influence the councillor to make a decision on behalf. Yes, sometimes the councillor will be in conflict because half would be objecting and half will be agreeing. What do you do? So the councillor's job is to initiate type of meetings, mediations, arbitrations, to get everybody on the same page and encourage everybody to have a win-win situation, so that that information can be then taken to council and ask for it to be attended to.
And then where and when is a councillor accessible to the public to allow for input to influence the councillor? Do they have an office where individuals can go to?
Usually,
just in a meeting?
Yeah. Usually there is an office that a ward councillor would have in the ward. There are definitely telephone numbers that should be available, email addresses. Nowadays it's WhatsApp, instant messaging. So yes, access to your ward councillor, you need to inquire by your specific ward councillor.
Thank you.
What are your means to communicate?
Thank you, Advocate Yusuf Khan Dalway. We're going to go for an ad break. So viewers, yes, keep on watching for more answers to your questions. We'll be back. I'm your host, Fazlaw. And welcome back to the show. In the second segment, we had a brief rundown on what we discussed in the first segment. And then we also looked at the facilitator role of your local councillor. If you've just joined us, keep watching for more answers to your questions. I'm your host, Fazlaw Abrams. Yusuf Khan Dalway, soon to be advocate. Now, I'm very passionate about this topic. And the questions that I want to pose to you is so that our viewers out there, as constituents living in their local wards, are able to take the councillor and hold him accountable, or her, accountable for their duties and their responsibilities, and make sure that their views are, or their plights are taken to council. So, with various planning and policy making processes, and specific programs or projects that are being implemented by council, what type of planning and policies and programs or projects does that refer to, so that the viewers can understand what they can really take to their councillor and expect from it?
One of the most important program of planning is called the Integrated Development Planning, the IDP. When a ward councillor is elected, within a few months he needs to submit an IDP, a planning for the 5-year term that he will serve the ward. And that would include what upgrades he wants within the area, what infrastructures he wants repaired or built, what type of security systems, what are the budgets. They need to work out, for example, if they need a fencing around a park, what is it going to cost? what is it going to cost to put in additional street lighting or additional drainage system, all that goes into the 5-year, the IDP, plan. There are short-term and there are long-term things that can be, achieved within a period of 3 to 6 months, and some would, take much longer. So those are that's the most important plan that each ward councillor has to submit to the municipality. Now, a ward councillor cannot achieve that by just drafting its own planning. He needs to engage with the constituency. He needs to engage with the residents to understand what it is that is needed within that ward, and that's going to improve and bring the ward to an optimum level once again. Obviously, it will include better service delivery, security, safety and security, focusing on health-related matters for the senior citizens, for the people that are the sick, hospitals, access to hospitals, and medical care. Those are the type of things. Remember, a ward consists of, an average of 4 to 5 areas. So it's quite a ward is quite big. So he needs to focus on each area, and the ward councillor won't necessarily know the problem in a specific street unless it's communicated to him. So, and he needs to attend to it. So he needs to engage with the entire ward to be able to achieve this planning structure.
Sure.
Moving forward.
So now he's been given all this information by the constituents. They've had the meetings, and he's now been told, these are our issues. This is our plight. These are our challenges that we face within our day-to-day living in this particular ward. He then takes that information, processes the plan, or do a presentation, and it takes it to council. Council then votes and decides on what the best way forward is, and plans are drafted and agreed on. How does he then take that information back to the constituents? And that falls in place with the principle that municipal work is essentially a public activity. Therefore, everything should be transparent.
Yeah.
So how does he take that information over?
Communication is always key in all industries, in every situation. So just the same way he has obtained that information with the residents of his ward, he needs to now communicate with the residents as to the outcome of a decision that has been made in council. So he needs to call a public meeting once again. He needs to communicate via social media. He needs to have a summary of it available at his office for anybody to have access to, and he needs to engage in a way that the community wants him to engage with him. Considering obviously time and availability of everybody, and get in a reasonable fashion to be able to communicate and transmit the information that has been given. Sure. And when it's a negative vote, for example, a decision in council, not what the residents has expected, then the ward councillor needs to work out a win-win situation somehow to get the ward to its optimum once again.
So as you're not a ward councillor, you're not in council at the moment, so I'm not going to ask you the question of what the current communication strategy is for the current municipality.
Okay.
What I do want you to answer is that, do you think that there should be more effective ways of communicating to the constituents by councillors? Because you stood as a ward councillor, right?
Yes, I do feel there should be more better ways or improved ways, and each ward is unique. You've got to look at the average way of communication in that ward, because if you look at the youth, they are more savvy technologically. The senior citizens may not be, and there's a different way of wanting to be able to communicate with them. Then there are the working class that are, running a rat race in their life, and communication needs to be instant and fast. And some people want to hear from the ward councillor personally in a public meeting or in a ward meeting is not just about, okay, let's print a newsletter or just print a document and just, send it out via email. How many are going to read that? We need to look at our youth, because our youth is the future. So ward councils need to focus on get them interested, right? By writing in such a way that it would encourage them to want to participate in the ward structures. And then obviously it's now left to the senior citizens that's wanting to participate and get involved. It shouldn't be that way.
Thank you, Yusuf. I think you've been an excellent guest. We have come to the end of the question and answer sessions, and we hope to see you back soon on our other episode.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, that brings us to the end of the show. Thank you for watching, and before you leave, don't forget to send us your questions and so that we can have them to answer. And the platform that we're using is the email platform, that is info@fazlaw.co.za, and our WhatsApp platform, which is 082-495-8989. The information will be on the screen. Our next episode that we will be discussing is when am I in breach of contract and what are the consequences? So please follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm your host, Fazluddin Abrams, and thank you for watching The Fazlaw Show.